Hi, it's John, and welcome to the channel. 4:35 a.m. Sunday, August the 3rd, with the big blue mug of coffee. I hope you're having a great day today, and in the middle of a long weekend. If you've got a long weekend this weekend, hope you're having a great 3-day weekend. And today I want to continue along with volume 2 of This Week in Stupid, something I want to do on a weekly basis. I forgot last week, so I'm going to put it in my calendar because there is a treasure trove of stupid on a weekly basis in this country. Unfortunately, I don't want the video to be too long. We could go on for hours with stupid in the country of Canada. Now, our first thing this week in This Week in Stupid is proof that Canada is a country of settlers. Now, I don't mean that in the way that the left means it. You know, you're a settler, a colonizer, you're living on stolen land. No, Canada is a country that doesn't go and strive to be the best. We settle because the country's mediocre. Not going to get into it, but I did a whole video on that in the past. Check it out here on my channel. So first up today, we have got the Premier of Nova Scotia. This is Tim Houston, folks, the Premier of Nova Scotia. And he tweeted this out earlier this week, and this just proves my point that you're a bunch of settlers out there. More housing, more affordability, more momentum. We're building 29 new affordable homes in Port Hawkesbury and Arichat, giving more families a safe, stable place to call home. And here you go, folks. Here's his new affordable housing. Shipping containers. Do you remember during the campaign when the Conservatives said people will be living in boxes and won't have a driveway or a place to park? This is the kind of thing they're talking about. Is this the Canadian dream? When you were growing up wanting to own a home, is this the kind of place that you wanted to live in? Of course not. I can't imagine where you would put your children. You tell them to play in the yard. Don't get gravel in your shoes, kids. There's going to be no place to park. Why do we need parking spaces, folks? The Liberals are banning cars. You aren't going to be able to afford that either. This is what settling is all about. Now, this is a shipping container. People also pointed out during the election campaign that Mark Carney is up to his eyeballs when it comes to conflicts with this kind of stuff with a company called Modulaire, the Modulaire Group. And what do they build? Houses that look like shipping containers. And who owns Modulaire? Brookfield Business Partners. And lo and behold, on his list of conflicts, Brookfield Business Partners comes in at number 4. Let's move on to This Week in Stupid, number 2. Number 2 this week in This Week in Stupid, it shows you how ridiculous Canada is when it comes to your rights, how stupid it really is. Rights you really do need, you don't have, and rights you don't need at all, you're going to get. I've often said here, you really don't have any rights in Canada. The government can take them away. Just look at Section 1 of the Charter. But let's check out this story from the National Post. Everything you need to know about Ontario's bike lane ruling. Just a little bit of this story. The Ontario Superior Court has ruled that the provincial government's law mandating the removal of bike lanes on key Toronto streets violates Canadians' constitutional rights to life, liberty, and security of the person. This decision marks a significant victory for bike lane advocates and raises questions about similar policies across the country that seek the removal of bike lanes. On Wednesday, Justice Paul Shabas of the Ontario Superior Court found that the Ontario government's decision to remove bike lanes was made without proper considerations and breached Section 7 of the Charter. And here is Section 7 of the Charter. It's right there at the top. Your right to life, liberty, and security of person. So you get rights to bike lanes. I suppose they'll put that in Section 2 of the Charter, along with freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, all those other freedoms that you really don't have in the country. But security of person, you'd think you'd have the right to, I don't know, self-defense in your own house. If somebody were to break into your home in this country, it's not really written into the Constitution. You really don't have a right to beat them to within an inch of their life, which is something they would deserve if they were threatening you and your family. Do you remember when Trudeau said this?
And there are debates, and we have a culture where the difference is guns can be used for hunting or for sport shooting in Canada, and there's lots of gun owners, and they're mostly law-respecting and law-abiding. But you can't use a gun for self-protection in Canada. That's not a right that you have in the Constitution or anywhere else.
So there you go. You don't have the right really to self-defense in this country. Do you miss that guy at all? But then again, we've got Mark Carney now. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Let's move along to number 3. Number 3 this week on This Week in Stupid, we could go to this guy on a weekly basis. He's always saying something ridiculous and stupid, and that would be Stephen Guilbeault, former Environment Minister, and he's now the Minister of Canadian Identity, whatever the hell that is, Culture and Official Languages, and he put this on X. And it's still on X. This is not a screen capture, folks. This is live. Today we mark Emancipation Day, a time to reflect on the history of slavery and the enduring impacts of anti-Black racism in Canada. And here's this statement that's on the Government of Canada website. I'd put a link to this in the description, but this kind of stuff will rot your brain. Naturally, Guilbeault got roasted online for this. True North Wire here, Guilbeault blasted for misrepresenting Canada's history with slavery. And they rightfully point out, by 1834, the Slavery Abolition Act took effect across the British Empire, officially ending the practice throughout what is now Canada. And the years that followed, the country became a refuge for those fleeing bondage in the United States. Historians estimate that between 30,000 and 100,000 escaped slaves reached freedom in British North America through the Underground Railroad. So number 3 this week. Now, I just wanted to put this in as like a little add-on. There was this article that ran in the National Post this week. This is an unfortunate truth, folks, that the left is just going to hate. Sorry, progressives, Canada wasn't built on slavery. The deeply uncomfortable truth is that much of the slavery that took place in Canada was done by First Nations. It's true. Let's move on to this week's honorable mention. As we get to the honorable mention, I just want to state that this list of stupid is not in order of importance, because the honorable mention could certainly be at the top of any list of stupid. The reason it's at this position is because I did a whole video on this earlier this week, and I was quite clear how I felt about what Mark Carney said. I'll put a card at the end so you can watch it.
Canada intends to recognize the State of Palestine at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September 2025.
So that is This Week in Stupid, volume number 2. We'll be back with number 3 this week. I hope you enjoyed it. I know this stuff can be quite serious, but you have to laugh sometimes, don't you? Thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. I'll see you in the next one.